This is Part 2 Episode 165. When 2 hours had passed, Chiu Yonghao finally let out a deep sigh, retiring alongside his two mates. A powerful surge of power was expelled from the Saint Bead, pushing them to the edge of the stadium. The warrior temple's situation was now irreversible. So far, they had fewer than 30 points in total. Chiu Yonghao's unsightly complexion reached almost the point of bleeding. He did not keep watching, turning around to leave the stadium, heading back to sulk in his terrace. With one less competitor, the clashes inside the Saint Bead not only did not reduce, but instead became even more frantic. In particular, after the Mage Temple's domain gradually united, its power expanded more and more, with the fusion of wind, darkness and earth. Their domain was like magic, and the overlaid boosts on it looked no weaker than the Night Temple. It was because of their increasingly domineering performance that the Warrior Temple was forced to back down. The Assassin and Spiritual Temple were approaching a crisis, shaking violently on every one of their clashes, with the Night Temple, or Mage Temple's domain, sustaining heavy shaking. Bright Glimmer of Hope's side was better off. The three of them kept their domain stabilized, contributing under Long Haochen's guidance to their own part. Although Chen Yinga had a large consumption, their situation was rather good still. After the Warrior Temple fell down, the Priest Temple became the most endangered side. They were neither expert in attacking nor defending, and although the three great domain-wielding powerhouses under Elder Ling's lead were coordinating pretty well, they were unable to come up with effective countermeasures to the repeated clashes, and thus naturally had their consumptions going faster than the other temples. Right now, the three priests had very unsightly looks on their faces, looking about to possibly retire from the competition at any time now. Now that it was midday, Long Haochen, who had been staying calm so far along, suddenly lifted his head slowly, with his eyes flashing with an especially clear brilliance. The instant his head was lifted, his momentum first affected Yang Haoyu and Li Jingji, whose cultivations were the highest out of everyone present, and were the ones following Long Haochen with the most attention. Catching sight of Haochen's glistening eyes, Yang Haoyu felt a chill. They both understood that something was going to happen. Just as expected, Long Haochen's next action shocked all the domain-wielding powerhouses present, even including Chen Zidian, who almost lost his voice in alarm. A drizzling brilliance flared out from the chaotic domain of Long Haochen's group of three. This golden light was characteristic of Long Haochen's light god domain, and it had a congealed white color on its outer part. Is he going mad? In the 7 parties' domain clashes, each parties were to stabilize their domain's union, strongly defending their positions, while doing their utmost to avoid excessive consumption. But right now, Long Haochen was unexpectedly spreading out his domain within the Saint Bead. Although it looked as though his domain was integrating Kia's domain well, even this way his unleashed domain would become a public target of all the temple's attacks. It would very possibly lead next to their elimination. But a scene that shocked everyone present followed. After the 5 great temples' union domains clashed with this golden white radiance, they were expelled. This radiance contained very special fluctuations of spiritual energy. That seemed to be a paramount existence, in front of which the colliding domain felt as if encountering a totally red-hot piece of metal in the midst of melting. So the powerhouses from the other 5 temples had no other choice but to contract their domains, so as to avoid further collision. Were they using magic fusion? Li Jingji was astonished. He did not expect the fusion of Long Haochen and Kia's domain to actually show such a powerful might. But, in reality, the domain's influence was mainly exerted from Long Haochen and Kia's domain union. Only Bright Glimmer of Hope knew about the associated level of amplification. Long Haochen and Kia's domains were already at a very high level. The light god domain's incomparable purity could be called number 1 of the whole continent with no hesitation, whilst Kia's domain of purification had the power of purifying all negative things, especially the powers of darkness and death. When the purest light god domain encountered the most purifying domain of purification, a mystic change was produced. Its light received a reaction of fondness from the purifying energy, just like the love between Long Haochen and Kia, devoid of any estrangement. After the 2 parties' mutual integration, it became a domain of divine light of purification, boosting the purifying force with light's amplification to make it reach an astonishing level. This instant, it actually managed to suppress the attacks of all 5 other united domains. Of course, in this state of union, Long Houchen and Cai's consumption went up severalfold, and increased the stronger the other domains' attacks were. After a short time of shock, Li Jingji couldn't help but purse his eyebrows. Despite the short time he had dealings with Long Houchen, he had a good understanding of his character. To his knowledge, despite his young age, he showed a far steadier character than his contemporaries, and wouldn't make any move without an aim. His sudden expansion of the domain surely had some basis. But what could he be planning? Such a large expansion was an easy thing to accomplish, but hard to undo. Even they shouldn't find it easy to withdraw it after such an expansion. Very rapidly, a reply came from him. After shaking the other domains, the light god purification domain's purifying white suddenly disappeared. In other words, only Long Houchen's light god domain remained. So this way, in the next encounter, he would have to resist over 10 other powerhouses' domains on his own. But a shocking scene took place this instant. Those golden light rays suddenly retracted, and Long Houchen suddenly exerted a forceful control of his light god domain. The others were unable to exert control within the Saint Bead, but he managed it. His light god domain was compressed like a golden rope, and lightly connected with the priest temple's united domain, which looked like it could quit at any time now. The instant the 2 domains made contact, the priest temple's 3 powerhouses had looks of unbelief. Immediately, the 3 domains were unable to keep control, and joined the side of Long Houchen's 3. These 3 priests' domain union was compressed in a flash, blending within Long Houchen's light god domain. The emergence of this scene left the 3 powerful knights of the Night Temple full of disbelief. Who could have thought that Long Houchen would make such a shocking move to forcefully integrate the priest temple's 3 powerhouses' domain within his own? This way, his domain incorporated 6 domains' strength. Don't think the Night Temple and Mage Temple are invincible because of their powerful displays. They were in the end only 3 people. Long Houchen's side had integrated the 3 priests' domains, thus causing a sharp increase of its power, completely surpassing the Night Temple and Mage Temple's 2 sides. The 3 priests immediately understood the situation, after a short period of shock. Furthermore, while under the light god domain's wrapping, their domain benefited from a mutual integration of higher perfection. And after the 3 priests got a clear feel of their domain within the light god domain, they felt it become more and more pure. This gave them a wide joy. They realized this time the extent of the Long Houchen's domain. Perhaps his cultivation was still lacking, but his domain's grade was perhaps unmatched within the whole alliance. The 3 priests very rapidly steadied their feelings, and Elder Ling even had a thin smile on his face. He vaguely guessed that Long Houchen was exchanging gifts. The favor of letting them have the qualifications to enter the illusory shrine of back then, this youngster was now repaying it. Amidst the temple's great gathering, even after so many rounds, there had yet to be such a situation where 2 temples' united domains joined together. Not due to unwillingness, but lack of capability. Long Houchen's conduct looked simple, but actually, this was something even the number 1 powerhouse of the alliance, Yang Haoyu, was not able to reproduce. Controlling one's domain within the Saint Bead was just far, far too hard. The factors of Long Houchen's success were, for one, the assistance of Kia's domain of purification, but also because of his domain's high grade, and his own high mental force. But even so, he had to first deploy the domain to a high enough scale, before retracting it back. A great trick was used up in the midst of the later process. When compressing it back, he had to create a connection with the priest temple's side, to compress theirs as well. Relatively speaking, this wasn't too difficult with control, but wasn't doable by any other temple's domains. Moreover, and more importantly, Long Houchen's light god domain was able to instantly achieve assimilation and fusion with the priest temple's domain. Under the light god domain's gentle domination, the priest's domain did not show any resistance. Even these 3 priest temple powerhouses were pulled to Long Houchen's side due to the domain's attraction. Just by relying on these 2 things, Long Houchen managed to gain the use of the priest temple's 3 great domains. Elder Ling's smiling expression became more and more pronounced. Long Houchen's domain integration not only made the domains of the 3 of them even purer, it also gave great benefits to their cultivations. Also, the 6 people's united domains gave rise to a stronger side, putting them into an invincible position. This way, even if in the end the priest temple was eliminated earlier on, they could still perhaps surpass the knight temple and mage temple. This could be called a great opportunity, as they were originally supposed to get eliminated soon. This was Long Houchen's secret trump, that he thought of after Long Qianying gave him a detailed description of the contest to take place within the Saint Bead. His light god domain commanded all holy spiritual energy. In this domain contest, although gaps existed between the 6 great temples' powerhouses, these gaps were not too wide. By uniting with another side, he was sure to be the last remaining one. Bright Glimmer of Hope was originally in the top 3 of this domain battle in strength, but in a direct clash, they wouldn't necessarily achieve victory against the Knight Temple and Mage Temple. But with the addition of the Priest Temple, they gained a gargantuan advantage. Long Houchen actually had several more choices. They could have relied on the Warrior Temple as well, after all Qiu Yonghao was also a light user. But the Warrior Temples 3 used different spiritual energy attributes, and relied on Qiu Yonghao's stripping their fields to force things between them. This complicated things. The situation within the spiritual bead was frantic, and Long Houchen did not have such a wide energy. So he had no other choice but to give up on that option. The next pick available were the Knight Temple and Priest Temple. The Knight Temple's 3 powerhouses were also light users, and pretty close to Long Houchen. But don't forget that these 3 were really strong. Long Qianying had his Divine Throne's amplification, and Yang Haoyu had the Starry Sky domain. Long Houchen wouldn't be able to subdue them so easily with his light god domain. And the other temples could very likely show dissatisfaction. So Long Houchen finally figured he may as well pick the Priest Temple. The 3 priests' gentle domains would show the least rejection in front of his light god domain, and the Priest Temple was originally in a weak position amongst the 6 temples. Pulling them to his side would not affect the struggle between the Knight Temple and Mage Temple. Long Houchen chose a timely decisiveness, right when the Priest Temple was about to get eliminated. This way, the Priest Temple showed a much higher acceptance toward his domain's assimilation. This avoided them the embarrassment of having to quit. Long Houchen's plan was without doubt a success. Seeing the smile on Elder Ling's face relaxed him greatly. Their new state of stability, and benefiting from the light god domain's amplification stabilized the 3 priests' domains. The verdict was clear. Long Qianying shot a glance to Long Houchen with a gloomy feeling, secretly thinking, this brat is actually taking advantage of the Priest Temple in such a way. Even if he couldn't unite with Brother Yang's domain, he should have consulted us ahead of time, just have Brother Yang quit, and that's all. However, his gloominess only continued for a short time, before he returned to normal. He secretly found the situation funny. If his grandson really did so, they could be afraid that the other 5 temples would show a collective disagreement. This guy was really intelligent. The domain battle kept going with no suspense, and an hour later, the Assassin Temple and Spiritual Temple withdrew in succession. The Knight Temple, Mage Temple, and the side formed by Long Houchen and the Priest Temple stood in confrontation. This time, neither of the 3 parties gave a way out. Long Houchen calmly and relaxedly controlled the United Domain's defenses, showing no traces of panic. Neither the Knight Temple nor the Mage Temple would, upon contact with their domain, induce a large consumption. However, he had some bias in him after all. When the Knight Temple's side rammed in, because they were light element users as well, they had far smaller consumption than the Mage Temple's united magic side. When Long Houchen and Kia's mixed domains occasionally appeared, every one of the divine purification light's attacks effectively weakened these 2 temples. The fact that the Priest Temple's 3 powerhouses had loosened control over their domain to hand its control over to Long Houchen really gave him the strongest backing possible. Under these circumstances, the outcome came with no suspense. When the day was dimming, the 3 powerhouses formed the Mage Temples were finally expelled from the Saint Bead. The Mage Temple having already gotten beaten, the Knight Temple had no reason to keep persisting, anyway they had no way to stand above Long Houchen's group. Therefore the 3 knights simply gave up directly. Afterwards, Long Haochen's three and the priest temple separated their union, and the three powerhouses from the priest temple voluntarily renounced with no hesitation, Long Haochen, Kia and Chen Ying finally departing the St. Bede at the end. The match being over, results were announced. When the warrior temple's head Chiao Yonghao returned to the field, his complexion was just as unsightly. 24 points was simply the lowest score in history. The chief referee Chen Zidian announced, the domain battle of the temple's great gathering has ended. Number 1 is Bright Glimmer of Hope, number 2, Priest Temple, number 3, Knight Temple, number 4, Mage Temple, number 5, Spiritual Temple, number 6, Assassin Temple, and number 7, the Warrior Temple. In view of this year's edition of Bright Glimmer of Hope, and after consultation with the elected staff, the number 1's reward has been increased to 600, and the last 5's gradually falling down to 100, with the last position receiving none. The point counts are as follows: Bright Glimmer of Hope, 1042, Knight Temple, 698, Priest Temple, 620, Mage Temple, 555, Spiritual Temple, 378, Assassin Temple, 164, Warrior Temple, 24. The gap between Bright Glimmer and the rest aside, the Priest Temple could be described the greatest winner aside from Bright Glimmer of Hope, having surpassed the Mage Temple in one move, by rising to the 3rd position. Such a grand event had never happened in the history of the temple's great gatherings. For a moment, both the Priest Temple's head Ling Xiao and Elder Ling were beaming with joy. Their looks toward Long Haochen's crew were full of goodwill. Chen Zidian kept going. Tomorrow, the last stage will be going. Due to the high quantity of contestants, and the permitted use of equipment, the battlefield will be the sky. The individual competition had already had the field wrecked out, to say nothing of a team competition. That would be 10 against 10, in battles with no restrictions in equipment. With a few divine tools additioned to the drive of several powerhouses of the 9th step, to say nothing about the temple's great gatherings field, even Holy City could as well be torn open by them. So having the team battle stage go on an aerial stage, and that must be at far altitude and far from Holy City. Chief referee. Right at this time, Chen Hongyu stepped up, nodded lightly to Chen Zidian. So, you have something to say about that, Hongyu? Chen Hongyu unhappily claimed, Chief referee, I trust that you have seen the process of the previous domain battle. I believe the Demon Hunt squad Bright Glimmer of Hope to have not won fairly. Seeing the priest temple stand above them, Chen Hongyu once again took offense. Is that really so? All right, then please express your views, you contestants from the other temples. Qianying, you start. He shifted his glance toward Long Qianying. Long Qianying replied with a tranquil smile, I have not seen Long Qianying pull out any dishonest trick. Although we also lost, I am sincerely convinced in my loss. I am indeed his grandfather, but will still speak my view. Let me ask all of you, even if you knew about this method, who of you could having done it? I can say that I couldn't. Long Haochen's strong control over his domain enabled him move unhindered within the whole St. Bede, absorbing the 3 domains of the priest temple in a flash with control and integration. That was a display of unconditional strength. Let me ask once again, would any of you have acted differently in front of the same good chance? When left with the choice to either drop out, or join hands with Bright Glimmer of Hope. Hearing Long Qianying's response, the nearby Elder Ling lightly smiled, Qianying is not mistaken. First, putting aside how Haochen achieved it, no one else would have refused such a good deal. We can be considered having taken part in Bright Glimmer of Hope's brilliance this time. The Assassin Temple's Xingyu laughed indifferently, shooting Chen Hongyu a glance, responding disdainfully, leave it at that, you're no good. Why blame this and that legit thing? What a lacking character. What did you just say? Chen Hongyu erupted in a burst of anger, glaring at Xingyu. These two were originally not getting along well, adding to that the factor of the Spiritual Temple and Assassin Temple's opposite sides in the temple's great gathering. Chen Hongyu could be said to have really become agitated. Xingyu did not give the slightest leeway, so what? Want to fight a duel with your unconvinced? Enough! Chen Zidian shouted, instantly extending an uncorporeal pressure to the whole stage. Almighty Person was not just a simple name. How about you, Yonghao? Chen Zidian shifted his glance to Chiao Yonghao. 3 of the 6 temples had already expressed their approvals of Bright Glimmer of Hope. Chiao Yonghao showed a bitter smile. Back then, we were already eliminated, and have no clear knowledge of the events that followed within the Saint Bead. Our warrior temple is abstaining from expressing our views. As the mage temple's best comrade, Chiao Yonghao couldn't directly support the Demon Hunt squad Bright Glimmer of Hope this time. But he had his own view. In the midst of disappointment, he had a few thoughts. For the sake of the warrior temple's future, he must plan ahead, first of all by not offending the Demon Hunt squad Bright Glimmer of Hope. They absolutely didn't expect their strength to reach such lengths. After 3 stages, they were in the lead with over 1,000 points. Both the Knight Temple and Mage Temple would find it close to impossible to reverse the stakes in the final stage. Long Houchen's powerful purplish gold Hao US sword, and the divine tools the 3 of them showed today, were all demonstrations of Bright Glimmer of Hope's great assets. Chen Zidian nodded. Out of the 6 great temples, 3 were on their side and 1 neutral, so there was no need to even ask the Mage Temple to come to a conclusion. However, out of respect for the Mage Temple, Chen Zidian looked at Li Jingji with an inquiring gaze. Li Jingji remained very calm, as if no longer affected by the gloom of his Mage Temple receiving the 4th position in the domain battle. Chief Referee, comrades. First of all, I agree with your previous statements. Although Bright Glimmer of Hope used some tricks in this domain battle, they managed it with their strength. Without the extraordinariness of Long Houchen's light god domain, they couldn't possibly have achieved this much. Even if they hadn't united with the Priest Temple, they could very possibly have still ended as the final victors. So, there is no need to dwell any longer on this matter. Seeing Li Jingji so easily let go of the opportunity of making things hard for Bright Glimmer of Hope, Long Qianying couldn't help but reveal a look of shock. Other than that, I have a suggestion. Li Jingji continued, the competition having reached so far, there won't be a big change to the final rankings anymore. So, I believe that there is no longer need to conduct the final team battle. The team battle involving so many people, and furthermore allowing the use of equipment, it would very easily result in accidental injuries. This temple's great gathering should just end with the current rankings. Although the temple's great gathering is an important matter taking place once every 10 years, it is also bound to catch Demunkin's attention. All of us are peak powerhouses of our temples, so saving as much time as possible would be the best. So I believe that the most important matter that follows should be to get the alliance ready, and make preparations for the future counterattack against demonkind. Li Jingji's speech did not merely shock everyone present. Li Jingji's statement implied that the Mage Temple was renouncing on their struggle in this temple's great gathering. Even Long Qianying, who did not like him much, could but nod in silence. So, this Li Jingji still knows which things to prioritize. Chen Zidian nodded. The temple's great gathering is a symbolic event of once every 10 years. Lessening the number of stages must be out of all the temple's agreement. Please lift your hand, all those who agree about shifting the end of the gathering ahead of time. The calm-looking Li Jingji was the first one to lift his hand. Immediately next, the Knight Temple and Bright Glimmer of Hope followed by lifting their own hands. This situation was really the most ideal one in their eyes. The head of the warrior temple Chiao Yonghao gave Li Jingji a glance. Lifting his hand, he was filled with secret admiration toward Li Jingji. Knowing when to bow was really an admirable quality. Xingyu also lifted his glance, full of appreciation toward Long Houchen and Kia. Finally, these 2 youngsters stood at the peak of humankind. On the side of the priest temple, Ling Xiao and Ling Lao naturally showed no opposition. They had at the present time achieved the 3rd rank, an unprecedented score for the priest temple. If one party was the most willing to conclude the competition at that point, that would no doubt be them. Only one hand was not lifted, and now the only party left was the spiritual temple. All gazes gathered onto Chen Hongyu. Although a tough old man, his scheming heart was rarely surpassed. No matter how unwilling he was to see the spiritual temple achieve 5th, he had to follow suit, for the sake of maneuvering for the standing of the spiritual temple in the new alliance. During the vote, Chen Hongyu seemed to mutter words in a very low voice, voluntarily for Xingyu to hear them. At least we have more points than some others. Not too bad, I guess. This time Xingyu didn't pay attention. Carrying a smile on his face, he had a calm and easygoing look. Seeing everyone accept Li Jingji's proposal, Chen Zidian nodded, all right. In that case, I, Chief Referee, announce the end of the temple's great gathering. The rankings are such: number 1 Bright Glimmer of Hope, number 2, Priest Temple, number 3, Knight Temple, number 4, Mage Temple, number 5, Spiritual Temple, number 6, Assassin Temple, and number 7, Warrior Temple. Tomorrow morning, the 6 great temples and Bright Glimmer of Hope's representatives shall convene in a meeting to discuss the matters of the new alliance. Yes. Everyone bowed at the same time, bowing to Chen Zidian. No one could deny that this legendary character was the most fitting chief referee that they could have. The temple's great gathering was terminated early after 3 stages. One could say that this was a really unexpected thing. In the eyes of the later generation, this instance of the gathering was really drawing the start of an unmatched era in history. Li Jingji carried a faint smile on his face as he walked to face Long Haochen, extending his hand in front of him. Congratulations, Haochen. Long Haochen gave a sincere response, thank you. Be at ease. I won't disappoint you. Li Jingji returned the smile. I will be waiting for that day you will have a divine throne at your side. The congratulations he gave Long Haochen also meant that Li Jingji was abandoning the struggle for the new alliance's leadership. Without this greatest rival they had, the rest would go much easier. Long Haochen nodded, certainly. Long Qianying joined Li Jingji's side, patting his shoulder. The youngster's generation is coming. I originally thought you were very young all along, but now you seem much older, Ihei. Li Jingji snorted, old Long, although you are not up to much, you gave birth to a good son, and now a good grandson. Hearing his mocking, Long Qianying didn't take it at heart, only laughing heartily. These are found great genes. Chen Hongyu let out a snort, bullshit. I can't see much similarity in the two of you, and his looking much better. Don't attribute yourself unexisting merits. Long Qianying laughed, say as you please. This old man is in a good mood today. I'll take it as jealousy from the two of you. The other temple's leaders were really jealous. Jealous for Long Qianying to have grown such a good grandson. The ability Long Haochen just displayed atop of being on the verge of establishing a new alliance would really make the Night Temple the absolute leader for the next 100 years. If humankind truly manages to vanquish demonkind, this position would only consolidate even further. So Long Haochen's existence could be said to be settling the Night Temple to the ruling position of the new alliance. Long Haochen bowed to the leaders, while humbly expressing that his achievement of championship was just a matter of luck. The temple's great gathering was terminated, but this was just a start to the new temple alliance. What came next would be even more important. Before this session had started, the 6 great temples had priorly consulted, determining that the changes to the new alliance would demand immediate action. After 6,000 years of settlement, the gap between the temple alliance and demonkind was no longer as large. But why could they only come on to passive beating in the holy war? Strength was a factor, but was the gap in their strength so large? The answer was indefinite. The most important reason that they remained so passive lied in their mutual policies. Demon hunt squads proved at repeated times the uses of joining several vocations together. But even now, vocation combination had never happened from the start of the war to its end. The key point of this lied in the estrangement of the 6 great temples. To resolve this matter was not achievable in a matter of words, but needed deep-rooted changes of the alliance. As a matter of facts, no one was willing to see themselves supervised by another one. But an important factor finally brought this compromise between everyone, and that was the immense threat of demonkind. 4 years ago, the Holy War gave the Temple Alliance the greatest comprehension of demonkind's strength they ever had. Before that, the 6 great temples all acknowledged that even if the Alliance's attack was insufficient, their defenses were ample. But in reality, even if demonkind had not deployed their full force, and their strongest races had yet to take part from beginning to end, they found it still very difficult to repel the demon offenses. Not only they suffered disastrous losses, but they even narrowly lost some of their forts. The ones that experienced this the deepest were the Assassin Temple, Warrior Temple, and Priest Temple. Their 3 temples were nearly lost in the assaults of the enemies. Thus, after the Holy War ended, the 6th Great Temple convened several meetings, gradually consenting to the foundation of a new alliance. For the sake of resisting the demon threat, and for humankind to go on, they couldn't keep moving out of selfishness. No matter how humankind's future balance of power would turn out, their first priority was to maintain the human race, or that talk would not even exist. However, the matter on who should lead this new alliance was discussed for very long. In the end, this session of Temple's great gathering was supposed to determine that the most greatly, let your strength talk for you. If not for Bright Glimmer of Hope's sudden addition, one could be afraid that the Knight Temple and Mage Temple's struggle would have persisted until the last fight. Li Jingji's renouncement was not only due to Bright Glimmer of Hope's performance, but also because of the Knight Temple's power. He originally believed that the Mage Temple would completely be able to suppress the Knight Temple, but when things started for real, the Knight Temple managed to stand above the Mage Temple without even their 2 divine knights taking part. This was a massive blow to Li Jingji, who did not expect this situation. Now without a doubt, it would be meaningless to keep struggling. There's no way the Knight Temple would leave the commanding position to the Mage Temple. Although the Demon Hunt Squad Bright Glimmer of Hope was led by Long Houchen, that was after all a Demon Hunt Squad, and was thus formed with 6 powerhouses from different parties. These youngsters would be the future leading pillars of the alliance. So at least each of the temples would have a leading figure amongst their ranks. This was the major reason why Chen Zidian wanted Long Houchen's group to return and participate in this struggle for power. Bright Glimmer of Hope's appearance was sudden, but after deep considerations, all parties gave them their support, which was the hardest outcome which could be considered. Part 2 end here.